We have reached 12 o'clock midday in the UK, so we shall begin the webinar. Firstly, a huge welcome to everyone who's tuned in live for this webinar titled REnvTech Insight, Why Become a Registered Environmental Technician. We're going to start off with a bit of an introduction to myself. My name is Phil. I'm the Marketing Executive at the Society for the Environment. My details are on your screen at the moment, so if you have any questions following the webinar, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and I should be able to respond with an answer accordingly or put those questions to our two speakers today. So the format of this webinar is I'm going to be just giving a bit of an introduction into the Society for the Environment, who we are, and the Registered Environmental Technician Register. I'll then hand over to our two speakers today, and they are Steve Coles from Anglian Water and also David Mann from Anglian Water. So I've got the easy job, and then I'll hand over to our two guest speakers. So a bit of an introduction to the Society for the Environment. The Society holds a Royal Charter, which was awarded in 2004. We are the custodian of two professional registrations, the Chartered Environmentalist or CEnv Register, and the Registered Environmental Technician or REnvTech Register. As the name suggests, CEnv is chartered level with the requirements of at least 4 years relevant experience and a master's level knowledge. REnvTech is our technician level register with the requirements of at least 2 years of relevant experience and knowledge to a level 3, which in the UK is the likes of A-level, level 3 MVQ, and so on. The Society operates as an umbrella organisation. Currently, we have 25 professional bodies as constituent bodies. At present, 2 of our constituent bodies have been successful in gaining a licence to award the REnvTech registration, with a number of other constituent bodies interested in the licence at the moment. The total number of CEnvs and REnvTechs currently stands at just over 7,300. Only a small percentage of those are REnvTechs, but the numbers are growing. The Society has also recognised exceptional contributions from 71 individuals by awarding them the Honorary Fellowship of the Society for the Environment, or ONFSC. Before we move on, if you're interested to hear more about the Chartered Environmentalist Register, please take a look at our recorded webinars on our website and on our YouTube channel. We basically have the equivalent of these REnvTech webinars in the form of a CEnv webinar. So as mentioned, there are currently 2 professional bodies who are licensed to award the REnvTech registration to their members. These are the Institution of Environmental Sciences and the Institute of Water. The logos are on your screen at the moment. The first requirement for becoming an REnvTech is to become a member of one of our licensed bodies at their required membership level. So you would need to be a member of either the Institute of Water or the Institution of Environmental Sciences at the moment. Initially, I would suggest as the first point of call is to contact the membership department at your chosen licensed body to get them to get the ball rolling, essentially. They will then provide you with the next steps for the REnvTech application. The next steps will basically focus on how you meet the required competencies. So there'll be an application process which will look into the competencies which the licensed body will provide for you. The details of those are also on our website, and the website address for us is on the bottom of your screen, and it'll be on there for the entire webinar. You can also check out those licensed bodies again on our website. And please bear in mind that if you do change a discipline or your job role, you are able to change or transfer between the licensed bodies if you wish. So that's a bit of an overview of the Society and a very brief overview of the Registered Environmental Technician Register. That's about enough from me. As I mentioned at the start, we have 2 speakers today, and they are Steve Coles, who is a Registered Environmental Technician, and David Mann, who is a Chartered Environmentalist. both from Anglian Water. First off, as he is the registered environmental technician, Steve will be going first, and then we'll hand over to David after Steve has completed his talk. So Steve's just going to go through why he became a registered environmental technician, and a bit about his background, how he became to be a registered environmental technician, and why he did that. So, Steve, over to you.
Thanks very much. Hi there, everybody. Right, there's a great introduction from Phil. I think the place where I'd like to start really is a little bit of background for myself, where I've come from, and why I thought that the registered environmental technician would be good for me. So essentially, just be a little potted life history. I've always been an outdoor boy. I come from a farming family to start off with. So I've been in the outdoors for most of my life. When I got to school leaving age, I went into mechanical engineering, and then after that, I went into a scientific background and got a HNC in laboratory science. So there's a nice combination of engineering and science in my background as well as being an outdoor boy. So I think REnvTech really fell into my lap as suited me, because it means that I can use my previous disciplines and my current position at Anglian Water as a process controller to highlight what REnvTech does for me in my career. So what I'll do is I'll give you also a brief overview of my job role outline. Obviously, I'm a process controller for Anglian Water. What we do as a company, or what I do where I work at Wing WTW Works, is we abstract water from 2 rivers, pump that into storage at the Rutland Reservoir, which is one of the biggest reservoirs in Europe. We then pump the stored water from Rutland into the Wing water treatment process works, where we treat it with chemicals, use energy along the way, and then pass that treated water out into the network where it can be consumed by the public. In all of those stages, there's places where the competencies for REnvTech application can be filled in. The abstraction side of things, we have triple SIs and sites of special scientific interest. Rutland Water is a triple SI and a Ramsar site as well, so we have to be careful on how we abstract, how much we abstract, the quality of the water we abstract. And then also with Rutland Water, the amount of water that we take out of Rutland Water and the amount of water that we put in to maintain levels. When we get into the treatment side at Wing, we're obviously trying to optimise our chemicals, optimise our energy, putting in the minimum of chemicals that we need to keep the quality of water good and protect the environment. So all of those factors can be brought into looking at the competencies and using examples from what I do on day-to-day process, and filling in the competency check sheets as you go along. I'm also the biodiversity champion for the Wing patch. That's a role that I've had for about 6 years now as well. So what I do is look at the Anglian Water biodiversity process and then try and enhance the biodiversity on site through the development of meadows, sorting out the tree population, and then promoting that as well on the Yammer platform that we use at work, to try and encourage people when they do visit site to get out there and have a look around at what we do from the biodiversity point of view. That is my job role in a nutshell. So really, the next part of that is the application process itself. As I've said, what I tend to do is look at all the individual stages of my job role outline, and then put that down into the competency mapping. If you have a look on the CEnv website, you'll see the competency mapping stage. So really, it's a case of running through that until you feel that you've done enough in the competency mapping to allow you to progress onto making some rough drafts for your application. To do that, I've had a couple of great mentors within Anglian Water. One of them is David Mann himself, and then my biodiversity lead as well. She was very good with me as well. So they provided some great mentoring, and in the end I think I went through about 4 rough drafts of my application until we got it looking nice, and then we made sure that it was as good as we could get it before we submitted it, and thankfully it passed, hopefully with flying colours straight through. So it was quite a testing process really. I am maybe just over level 3 for the HNC with laboratory science, and I felt that as well as being quite a testing process, it was also a very fulfilling one, because it just it stretched me enough to let me know that I was doing something challenging, and then also when you achieve what it is you've set out to do, it's also the good reward that you get from that. So overall, on the whole, I would say a very positive process. So where do I go looking forward from here? With the Institute of Water, they have a very good CPD part to their website. So everything that I did on my journey through REnvTech, it was logged in my CPD. And then everything that I've gone on to achieve after that has been logged in my CPD, and I'm obviously working forward now to try and achieve the chartership level. Since then, I've done a little bit of public speaking for Anglian Water to try and promote REnvTech within the business, and various other bits and bobs along the way. I find that since I've had the qualification, it's allowed me a lot more confidence when I talk to other people about the environmental side of the business, and because of that, because my confidence rubs off on people, I think it allows me a little bit more leverage when we're collaborating with our external contractors, talking to my forward line manager about projects that I want to initialise, and then mentoring others. I've had quite a bit of interest from other people from within the business that are keen on REnvTech as well, and I like to feel that I've been able to contribute with how they progress through it as well. So the slide that you're seeing is just an example of some of the biodiversity enhancement that I've done since I've been at Wing. We've developed some meadows. Obviously, we're looking after bird life. I think there's about 50 bird boxes gone up on site from previously 0. So we're doing our bit to particularly help small birds, because we've got a shortage of small bird population there. Also, one of my key aims has been to get other people from within the company outside to actually have a look at what it is we're doing, so that they can see the evidence of our collaborations with our external contractors. So the sort of the third slide in it is showing a path which we've got running all the way around the outside of Wing now, and it's a perimeter path that takes people all the way around our enhanced biodiversity area. It's about 1 mile in length. We've got about 13 acres at Wing of woodland and meadow, and I think it's one of the best things that I've done since I've been there is to get some of the senior managers and even the company director out there and have a look and actually see the progress that we're making at Wing, and how we're enhancing our biodiversity as a company, and how we're fulfilling our role as a company to be as environmentally focused as we can be. The second slide is about what I've done at home. I feel that obviously being an outdoor boy from the start and being an environmentalist as well along the way, what I've learned when I've been going through this process at Wing and within Anglian Water, I've tried to move that into my home life as well. So obviously you can see the most beneficial thing I think I've done for wildlife while I've been at home is to have a pond. If anybody's listening or watching this, I would say if you take anything from this, is to go home and put a pond up this year, because that's one of the most beneficial things you can do for the environment on a personal level. Also, you can see there's a wood burner there, which reduces my reliance on gas, and it's a DEFRA approved stove. So I went through all the process of making sure that I picked the right stove, looked into the options of using sustainable sources to feed that stove. And then also, the last picture is of the dashboard of a Nissan Leaf. The last 3 years, I think, on Leaf, I've been charging it every night on renewable electricity, and I think I'm up to about 20,000 miles now of driving with renewable electricity to and from work, and as a daily commuter. And that there's a remarkable good feeling that comes from that as well. So all of those things that I've just talked about, they can all be used in your core competencies, and what you do away from work, what you do at work. And I think most people that went into this process might start off thinking, what is it that I actually do? But it's only when you start digging down into your past and your achievements that you forget about along the way, that you realise how much you've gained over the length of your career. So what I would say, my words of encouragement to somebody, if they looked at the CEnv competencies and thought they looked too difficult, is just dive in and start to look back through your life and start answering some of those questions, and you will be surprised how quickly it all comes together. And yeah, basically from me, the whole process has been a big thumbs up, and if there's anybody else out there considering it, I would just say go for it. That's as simple as I can say. I think David is going to talk more about what this achievement means to the company and what it means to the company about getting the REnvTech accreditations through. And I might chip in whenever there's a space for me to get a word in edgeways. So yeah, thanks for listening. Cheers.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah, what I'll try and do is I'll try and give an overview of what it means for us as a company, but also what it means to approach this as a mentor. I'll try and keep it fairly brief, because Steve's bit about being a registered environmental technician is the piece that people need to take away with them. My name's David Mann, as it says on the screen. I'm a regional support manager for Anglian Water. I'm a chartered environmentalist with the Institute of Water. I've been in the water industry now for about 20 years. I joined as an electrician, and I joined the industry simply because I saw water as such a vital thing to provide for people. And I've joined Anglian Water in particular because of its environmental stewardship. So right from the start for me, it was about being in a company that did something good. As it says, I'm a regional support manager now, which is really about providing regional level support to people who treat water. And I also lead our optimisation and efficiency programme. Anglian Water is a large company. It's the largest water and wastewater company geographically. As it says, it's got over 4,000 employees and 6 million customers. It does treat an awful lot of water and wastewater every year. But at its heart, it's an environmental company, 100%. As it says on there, over 40% of the land we own is a designated SSSI of one sort or another. It's got a huge amount of biodiversity on its sites, and it does its best to try and deal with those. But also, as part of its Love Every Drop strategy, it wants to put water at the heart of a whole new way of living. Our whole business is run around these goals. There are 12 very stretching goals, and if you flick through them quite quickly, you'll see that a lot of them aren't traditional business goals. Things like, no pollutions, that's what we do for a living. But being responsible for water stewardship or carbon reduction, you don't always see that with every company. And it does drive everything we do as a business. So this isn't an add-on, it isn't something that we do as a sideline. This is how our business is run. At the end of the day, the way we all see it is that long-term access to secure supplies of water is what Love Every Drop is all about. And at the end of the day, having access to that water is one of the most important things that we can do for people. It makes absolute business sense. Being environmental reduces your costs and makes you sustainable, and that's what we're all about. It also helps to promote, to raise the profile of any business that does good things. This is our customers want this from us. They've made that very clear. So we run campaigns around things like drop 80. So try and getting people down to using 80 litres of water a day in their household. It sounds like a lot. Believe me, if you try it, it's really, really difficult to do. And things like keep it clear, not putting loads of stuff down your toilet and into the sewage system that blocks it and causes all sorts of environmental damage. So it's exactly how we run our business. As far as Anglian Water and REnvTech goes, we were really proud when Steve became the first ever REnvTech. As much as anything, because we felt it demonstrated our commitment to our people, but also to the environment. It's not surprising that he managed to do it, apart from the fact that, as you've just seen in Steve's examples, he does some incredible stuff. Our technicians are 100% all environmental professionals. Everything they do has a direct impact on the environment. Their day job, as Steve was describing to you earlier, right the way through the process, everything they do has an impact on the environment. REnvTech, I think what it does for them is it helps people to realise that for themselves. They don't always see it, but going through the process, I think Steve would probably agree, it helps you to actually realise where you do impact the environment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The way that we do it is quite organic at the moment. We do have a strong internal network of mentors. There are lots of chartered environmentalists in the business. There are several now REnvTechs as well as lots of other registered people, so chartered engineers, chartered scientists, engineering technicians. All of those people sort of sign up to become mentors. But the way that most of it's grown has been as a sort of a movement, I guess. So it's quite organic, and people tend to seek someone out. There's lots of information on our websites, internal websites, for people to see about how they can seek out somebody to take them through this process. I know you've been approached something before, Steve.
Yeah, I've dealt with a few people now that have shown interest, and there's been some very positive responses from it. I think the mentoring process is definitely something that's broken down a lot of barriers between, on a personal level, between me and maybe high levels of management. I feel a lot more confident now after gaining this qualification, and that's a lot of that is due to the mentoring process. So yeah, very, very positive process, I think.
Yeah, and also one of the things we've started to do is we've started to develop some internal qualifications that aren't strictly environmental qualifications, but that have that build the skills and competencies to achieve professional registration. So we have a course called Advanced LTO, which is all about how we optimise our treatment works for efficiency and for performance. But what that allows people to do is to identify all the things that they're doing during these projects that build the competencies to achieve registered environmental technician. And at the same time, it makes absolute business sense for us because it reduces costs and it makes us a more sustainable business. So just quickly, why I supported REnvTech. So I was proud to be Steve's mentor. The main reason that I support that is that the more good people who develop as environmentalists, the better. Because what it allows us to do is promote that environmental case with more voices. Also, as a chartered environmentalist, every chartered environmentalist should see it as a responsibility to promote environmentalism, but also to help people along the road to developing their knowledge. I would wholeheartedly say to any chartered environmentalist who sees this, if you've got people or you know people who could develop into REnvTechs, then it is a great thing to go and do. As much as anything else, it's immensely rewarding. It's great to see people grow. It's great to see people realise the amazing stuff they do. Trust me, and you learn so much from it. I learned so much about the environment from mentoring Steve through this. I suppose the other thing for me is it's great, as we discussed a minute ago, for people to understand how their work impacts the environment. That's part of the process of applying for REnvTech. It's also something that people who've got REnvTech get the chance to go and tell people, so they can make that case in a very, very solid way to people about every time you do A, it impacts the environment in this way. So just for me to close up, I mean, I think it's probably going to work best if Steve and I both talk over this bit. But why should you consider becoming an REnvTech if you're not already? For me, one of the big things is, it demonstrates professionalism and commitment to any employer who's out there.
Yeah, the other thing is dealing with external companies and the stuff and contractors as well. If they know that you're an environmental professional, then you've got a better chance of making yourself heard and being able to argue your case for a positive outcome. So as far as collaboration goes, it's a 100% improvement on that, I think.
Yes.
So the same with making your voice heard. It's again, it ticks that box as well, and I'm 100% as well. I've helped to develop my career with this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no, you can see that every time that people do this sort of development, they move themselves on. The great thing about the process as well, and it is a good, fulfilling process, I think, is that it does demonstrate those skills and competencies to employers, to external bodies. So I know that Steve's work with our grounds maintenance people has been greatly enhanced by having those competencies and being able to talk about it in that way, but also to yourself. And it's undoubtedly, it's really good for your company. Any company that's got people who could become REnvTechs who don't do it are missing a trick. They really are. I think it's really important as well, and it's quite a soft thing, but it is fulfilling and it is an opportunity to give something back. So you can give something back both to the environment, but also to society as a whole. And personally, I think that's one of the things that most people who do this sort of process, whether it's REnvTech or chartered environmentalists, value the most.
Yeah, I think the sort of person that's going to be attracted to this accreditation is already going to be the type of person that's going to be willing to be a giver anyway. So if you're anyway inclined to just be it sounds funny, but a decent standard of human being that's into helping the environment in any way you can, then again I would say this is the sort of thing you should be looking at too. As far as a professional recognition of how you want to live your life goes, and there's not really anything that I'd see around that can match this at the minute.
So thanks for listening to us.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, guys. That was really, really good, really useful. One thing that really struck me was the when Steve mentioned about REnvTech enhancing his confidence and influence with contractors and management and so on. That's brilliant to hear, and hopefully really useful for those that are watching. It certainly sounds like it made a difference, and it seems to really work for Anglian Water as a whole. So that's really good to hear. So thank you very much for your time, both Steve and David. That was really, really useful. We're not done yet. We have had a couple of questions in during the webinar, but whilst a couple more are coming in, so now's your chance. Please tap some questions in, and we'll pick them up and ask those to Steve and David. But we've also had some questions from the registration process. So when you registered for the webinar, you're given the opportunity to ask a question at that stage, and we did have a couple. So we're just going to run through those. So first off, what did you find the most challenging in the process of becoming a registered environmental technician? So that one's for Steve, I believe.
Yeah. Well, the initial, I think the most challenging thing is the initial point where you think you look at the competencies, and initially for me it was a little bit overwhelming. But what you need to do is to get over that initial thought of can I do this? Am I qualified to do this? And just have a little bit of self-confidence and think, and just take what I did. I printed out the competencies, took them home, sat there, mulled it over, thought, right, just try to start filling in some of the gaps. And before you know it, it's almost like, it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You go back through your career, you think, oh, that will fit in there, that will fit in there, and before you know it, you're well on the way. And so the hardest thing for me was just that initial step. Once you've taken the initial step, then then you are away. So yeah, it's I think when people start things for the first time, there's always a little bit of fear of the unknown, you know what I mean, and you just got to try and get over that, and just have the self-confidence and the self-belief to think that you've as you said, Phil, to start off with, if you've got 2 years experience, then you're probably going to be okay with having the enough experience to fill in the competency checklist. So as long as you've got that 2 years experience, just don't be scared and just dive in. That's all I can suggest.
Yeah, taking the leap, definitely. Everybody I've seen go through the process has found that the hardest part is just going and doing that initial step.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The competencies, when you look at them initially, I see how they could be daunting. But if you do take some time and break them down and look at your experience, then yeah, that does make perfect sense. Brilliant. The next question here is: do Anglian Water, that's quite specific, do Anglian Water support employees in any way during the application process? And you've already mentioned the internal training that you do, which goes towards the registered environmental technician competencies in a way. But David, could you provide any more insight?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the answer is obviously yes. We've got a strong mentor framework. We have an intranet which has an awful lot of information for people to go on there. They can go and find the information quite easily. We pay for our employees professional memberships, and also for their registration fee and any assessment fees that they have. Nearly every single FLM that I know values this, so they will go out their way to make sure that people are given time, either during their working day as much as possible, to go and do projects, and they'll also let people take that on. And I think that's probably the most important thing that an employer can do, as well. You know, a mentor can be from anywhere. The most important thing an employer can do is give people that chance to just empower themselves and go and do a project. And I think that helped a lot, didn't it, Steve?
Yeah, I had absolutely no obstructions at all through the process, and like David said, all the fees are paid for you, so there's no worry about anything like that. And as David says, quite right, the company is proud to have this development within the company, and it's a win-win situation, a win for the company and a win for the people that are getting the achievement. So.
Brilliant. And I may have missed this during the webinar, I'm not sure, but is it something that Anglian Water would, well, I guess it depends on the departments, but is REnvTech something that it stands out during job applications and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we don't see it very often on job applications.
No.
But yeah, it absolutely would. You know, certainly I recruit quite a lot of people, and if I saw it on an application, regardless of my chartered environmentalism or anything like that, I would suggest that what it would show me is that that person is committed to the environment, but also they're committed to developing themselves professionally. That's always going to be a good thing to see as an employer, I think. Yeah.
Okay. We've got one more question that we had through the registration process, and this is probably one for me to answer, I believe. How much does it cost to become a registered environmental technician? Now, from the Society for the Environment, we charge a set amount to become an REnvTech, and then an annual registration fee going forwards. The initial fee is £30, which includes the registration process, and then after that, the annual fee is £15. However, so we license our licensed bodies to award the registered environmental technician registration, so it all goes through those, and there may well be administration charges and so on that our licensed bodies charge, and that does vary. So speak with the membership departments at each of the licensed bodies, and they'll be able to tell you all the information.
I'll be cheeky, Phil, and just say, come and get a job at Anglian Water, and then you can do it for nothing.
There you go. A bit of advice. So we're going to move on to the questions that have been asked during the webinar itself, and we've had a couple in, so thank you very much for sending those through. The first one is a bit lengthy, so bear with me. I am an engineering technician in a company specializing in hydropower. I develop new options for increasing renewable power output from installations. How would I become an REnvTech? Now, the process is, we've already discussed a bit of the process, and the next webinar that's coming up, which is how to become a registered environmental technician, might help a little bit more on the actual the process details, such as the competencies and that kind of thing. In terms of hydropower, that could fall within the Institute of Water, I believe, and potentially the Institution of Environmental Sciences. So you may well have the choice there. In terms of the job role itself, would that be something that would Anglian Water have any hydropower technicians or anything like that?
No, we don't have any.
No.
We don't have any hydropower technicians, but it does sound like a role that would have a wealth of stuff. And to be honest, most roles do have, but that sounds like a role that would have a wealth of stuff that would match to competencies.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other important bit of advice for people, in my view, and I think Steve said it a couple of times, is this isn't about your job role. This is about everything in your life. You can bring in so many examples from what you do in your personal life. You know, talking about your pond, you can put so many examples in that match the competencies from that anyway. So, you know, to be honest, from the brief potted history, that person sounds, you know, from an assessor's point of view, it sounds like a perfect candidate. Yeah,
certainly. No, it definitely sounds like REnvTech may well be perfect for this particular person. But yeah, just have a conversation with the membership departments, and they'll tell you the best way to go about the application. But it certainly sounds like a good one to go for. The last question we've got here is, does the application need to be focused on one particular job role? Now I can say no, it doesn't. But Steve, did you use a number of different job roles in the application process to identify your experience?
No, I could have done. I could have gone back to the engineering that I did when I was a lot younger, and I've done a lot of voluntary work in between the two. I've done some paleontology, some archaeology, and that with the science. But my current role, which I've been in for 6 years now, has been there's just a wealth of experience from that. So I didn't really need to go back any further. But the option was there if I'd have needed to. It's just I've been kept plenty busy enough with what I've been doing in the last 6 years.
Yeah, David, from an assessor's point of view, in terms of the application and seeing various different examples from different job roles, I guess it wouldn't particularly change the outcome of the application.
No,
I guess it might be useful to have.
I think it can enhance the application, to be honest, Phil. I think the thing is it shows a continuing commitment to sustainability by having lots of different examples. I always feel that way when I read them.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that brings us to the end of the questions. So main thing to say now is thank you very, very much to Steve and David. Thank you for your time. I hope everyone that's watching has found that really useful. Again, if you have any further questions following the webinar, or if you're watching the recording, if you just find my details at the start of the webinar and send me an email, drop me a line, and I'll be able to answer those questions for you, or indeed we'll get back in touch with Steve and David, and we'll get an answer to you either way. So thank you very much for that, Steve and David. If you wanted to find out a little bit more about registered environmental technician registration, we do have another webinar coming up, which is how to become an REnvTech, and that is in the middle of May. So please sign up for that. That might give you a little bit more detail in terms of the application process and what you need to do to become an REnvTech. We've also got World Environment Day coming up, and the Society has an event that they will be running, which is the annual awards and lectures, which will be happening on the 5th of June, which is World Environment Day. And if you are an REnvTech or a CEnv, the registration is free for the event. If you are an aspiring CEnv or REnvTech, then this might be a really useful event for you to attend. You can meet current and aspiring chartered environmentalists, both of them, at the event, and we are awarding our Environmental Professional of the Year and a number of new honorary fellows. So please join us for that. And that's about it from us for this webinar. So we'd like to wish you the best of luck with your application if you decide to go ahead. And if we can help in any way, please do not hesitate to get in touch. But we'll see you at the next webinar.